What's the worst pain you've experienced and what caused it? Cyst rubbing on spinal cord. Edit. The synovial fluid between the vertebrae formed the cyst. The vertebrae were rubbing together and formed a synovial cyst. The cyst was at my lumbar 3, lower back. It rubbed on a large nerve that went down the front of the left leg. Pain was as if I tore my quad. I wish this pain on no one. Surgery resolved issue, but now I have structural issues because they removed part of the vertebrae to avoid rubbing. Life goes on. Sit up straight, folks. My dog ripped my testicle stitches open. I have swollen blood vessels in my scrotum, both sides at the moment, and had surgery to suppress the pain. They go in, cut the nerve, then stitch me up. I'm recovering 3 hours later in bed when my pup jumps on to cuddle. For context, she's rather small and weighs just about 7 pounds. She curls up in a ball on my crotch with her head resting on my tummy. We fall asleep for a while until my sister comes home. My pup jumps off my body while using my groin as a jump pad. I screech an inhuman noise, cry for an hour, and pass out from the pain meds. That was August 4th and I had my second surgery December 29th. Second surgery went by much smoother and I have the last surgeries planned for next year. I got bit on my thumb by a bat when it was in my apartment. I was trying to catch it in a garbage sack to get it outside when it got me through the bag. The next morning I needed to get the rabies vaccine. Turns out you want the injection of the vaccine to be around the point of potential infection, so I had to get 14 shots in my thumb. There was still some of the formula left in the vial, so they had to also give me a shot in each shoulder, each thigh and my butt. The thumb pain was probably the worst I've ever felt. I had surgery to remove a bit of my brain where my seizures started. I woke up after 6-7 hours and I was so out of it. I just remembered a nurse asking me what she was holding in her hand, to see if I was with it or not. Nurse, holding a pen. What is this? Me, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Nurse, is this a pen or a coin? Me, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. They put me out again, and I woke up a few hours later just repeating again how much it hurt. It was a 10 on the scale and I just wasn't with it. Worst night ever for both me and my wife, who had to witness it all. Both thankful your wife was with you as a patient advocate and that you were somewhat out of it. I had emergency surgery last year and they put 8 screws in my back. I woke up 10 tense pain, found out morphine doesn't work on me, and it's smack dab in the middle of COVID, so I was denied any visitors or even a patient advocate. I spent 10 agonizing hours being tortured, and worst of all, they lied in my medical record saying I received appropriate care. I just passed the 1-year anniversary of that hell night and I'm so thankful physical pain fades in your memory. If I had to relive that night of sensations, I couldn't cope. It was Friday, October 14, 2016. I woke up in a cold sweat and in terrible pain. My back to my belly button felt like I was being filleted from the inside with a knife made of pure lava. I went to the ER and the doctor on staff said, "Yep, you've got a kidney stone. Good news is that it's halfway down your ureter. Just drink plenty of water and pass it over the next few days." I was prescribed oxycodone and sent on my way. I was never someone that likes taking painkillers. They make me feel off. I was allowed to take one every 6 hours. As I drank over a gallon of water and took the medication, I felt worse and worse throughout the day. The medication did absolutely nothing. Not a thing for the pain. Late Friday night, I couldn't take it anymore. I said to my wife, "Sweetie, I need you to take me to the hospital, please." She got our 6-month-old in his car seat. I crawled to the back seat of her car in such immense pain that I couldn't talk, pure sweat running down my face. We arrive at the hospital. What I found out is that the evil motherfucker doctor I saw in the ER before neglected to tell me at the time was that the stone was a 7.5 millimeters boulder. There was absolutely no way that it would fit down the ureter and pass naturally. It was jammed tight in my ureter and didn't budge at all. The new ER doctor said, "Wait, you were sent home with that? You need surgery immediately." So here I am dosed with the painkiller cocktail of the lauded and fentanyl via my 4 and it is barely making a dent. The nurse came in to see me and said, "Oh, remember to keep breathing, okay? Your respiratory rate is extremely low and your blood O2 level is dipping. I said, oh, okay, remember to keep breathing, got it. In the meantime my wife is saying, what the fuck does that mean? I was dripping balls at the time and didn't think anything of it. Fast forward 6 hours and I'm taken in for surgery. I was knocked out and then had the procedure. They stuck a laser up my dick hole and blasted the stone. However, they had to also send a steel claw up there to extract the pieces since they separated into shards that embedded into my ureter. I wake up to the doctor shaking a specimen vial with what sounded like broken glass. He showed me the 4mm stone and the rest of the debris. He said, that was the worst one I've ever taken. How you were still conscious with the 7.5mm in your ureter is a mystery to me. The doctor said, you'll have a stent in your ureter for a couple weeks while it heals. You may have an unpleasant sensation when you urinate. That was a massive understatement. If you've ever used a high-pressure hose at a car wash, you'll notice that after you let go of the trigger the hose shakes for a moment because of the abrupt pressure change. Imagine that same thing occurring between your bladder and kidney. Pissing was excruciating. The doctor had to repeatedly cancel and reschedule to have the stent removed because of his schedule. Fast forward 8 weeks later, the day to have this miserable stent removed has finally come. I lay down, spread eagle in the procedure room. The nurse injects a numbing agent up my piss hole. She warns, it'll only make it numb from penis to bladder. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was under the impression that the whole process would be painless. The doctor comes in and says, let's get this show on the road. You might feel some slight pressure and discomfort. He jams a thick black tube up my dick while I look on in fascinated horror. I feel it in my bladder. He says, okay, now for the bad part. I have to pull the stent out. I'll do it on the count of the 3. Try to relax. 1. Rip that fucker DIDIT on 2. I now know what a lawnmower being started feels like. Fuck kidney stones. I'm not a professional mechanic, but when I help my friends out it's the first true lie I teach them of never ever. Apart from taking anything metal of their bodies, blocks and jack stands, always let it cool down before working on a car. My brother also learned the hard way. Luckily he put his shirt on top of the cap as it shot out. It soaked the majority of coolant that would have hit his face, only got it on his chest and stomach. Let the engine cool down before you even touch anything under pressure. Damn, my father-in-law works at a car shop. I was talking with him and one of his buddies, can't remember if the guy worked there or not, pulled the cap off of his radiator coolant pipe after driving to the shop on a 105-degree day. It shot coolant all over his face. It could just be from my mind exaggerating, but I could have sworn the dude's face had like a smoke coming off of it while his skin sizzled. It was horrible. I believe he didn't have much facial scarring, if at all, but his palm healed a slightly different color. I feel your pain, but a recluse bite above my ankle. Didn't feel the bite at all, but man, the following few months were insane. I no longer have sensation near the awesome scar it left, but I swear I have phantom pains. If anything near the scar gets hurt, like a small scrap or bug bite, I swear I feel intense pain behind the scar. But if I touch the scar it's completely numb. Must have some weird nerve damage and repair. Something similar happened to a friend at a party once, except she didn't break any bones. She was just having a massive panic attack, so I took her to the bathroom to try to calm her down, as I have panic attacks and know what it's like. I got her a bit calmer, but then she just hit the deck from exhaustion and proceeded to shit herself while she was at it. So now I'm a very dicey situation. I'm a 6 feet 6 inches man, and she's a very slight girl of about 5 feet 5 inches. So I'm left with the decision. She's going to wake up soon, and I don't want her to have the shame of having just shed her britches in front of her friend. So I'm thinking, do I just take her pants off and clean her up? What if someone walked in and saw that? Thankfully, she woke up about a minute later, so I didn't have to make that decision. She cleaned herself up and I promised to never tell anyone about what happened. To this day it's the first time I've spoken of it, and only because there's no way she could be identified. Thinking back, it was kind of funny. It was like something you'd see in a sitcom. My left middle finger was bitten down to the bone by an octopus 10 years ago now. Severed 3-4 tendons. Think they missed one during surgery, an artery, and did 50% nerve damage. I have most use of it today, but I will never be able to straighten out fully the rest of my life. Edit. Since many have asked, yes, I was awarded some money. No, I won't share how much. It was an okay amount. I definitely could have gone after much more with how he handled himself, but I just wanted him to pay what he legally owed me. I won the initial hearing and he proceeded to appeal 4-5 times, each of which I also won. Total thing took almost 7 years. NSFW, NSFL. This is what my finger looked like a few days after it happened, for those who are into that kind of thing. If you aren't, don't click that link. Dropped a fire extinguisher on my foot at work. Knew a bone was broken, beyond agonizing, but other than bruising I didn't have any other symptoms the next day. It wasn't until I went in for an x-ray for arthritis in my toes a month later that the doctor pointed out I had a broken cuboid bone. Lol. Then a few years later somebody boned me with her car. I heard my head hit the pavement. That sound will forever haunt my dreams. I woke up in the hospital 5 days later. They told me I had a massive skull fracture. I was bleeding into my brain so much that my skull started splitting where the fracture was to let the blood out. Even though you don't move the skull, years later it still hurts to press where the bone healed. Bone fractures are sneaky evil. Woke up during surgery. Luckily they weren't far and so they were able to put me back under and no real damage was done from me trying to make my escape from the table. I woke up when they were moving me so I was not strapped down. I remember being suddenly awake and screaming and it felt like my back was on fire. There were 3 people laying across me holding me down. When I woke up in recovery absolutely nothing they gave me helped with the pain and I spent like the next day just throbbing in pain and sobbing. It was so bad. I did have several 10-inch needles stuck in my spine pumping contrast into the discs when it happened so that is most likely why it hurts so friggin' bad but why they decided to keep going. Like I said, no real damage, just a lot of pain because those needles were not meant to be in a moving person. Anesthesia is a funny thing. I've been working in surgery for nearly a decade, so I'm just curious, what surgery did you have? Because the order we do procedures, it sounds like you woke after the procedure when they were transferring you from the operating table to the recovery gurney. We don't start procedures off the operating table just to transfer them in the middle of it. We have to maintain sterility so moving like that is an absolute no number. My guess is that you woke up after the procedure kicking and screaming, which happens, especially in young people, while transferring from the OR table to the recovery gurney and the surgeon either forgot to give you local or just didn't give you enough. You probably blacked out again because the anesthesiologist gave you a good dose of the lauda to calm you. Edit. Anyone who claims they screamed at any point during general anesthesia isn't remembering correctly. We put a tube down your throat and we control your breathing. You can't scream. I've been dealing with gallbladder attacks for about 19 years. And finally after one of the worst attacks I ever felt I finally decided to see a surgeon instead of any other specialist. Luckily, he's seen this hundreds of times before and removed my gallbladder in the following month. It was routine, in and out of the hospital in less than 4 hours. I honestly couldn't believe I waited so long. I'm finally free. Edit. Here's a shout out to our gallbladders who helped me feel at ease before my surgery. Great peeps over there if you have any questions. Another edit for migraine sufferers. If you have not found your migraine trigger yet, please do a bit of investigating just in case you can't work it out. It can help with prevention. Some common culprits include food, particularly processed foods, vision problems, birth control, hormones, stress, lack of sleep. Edit. To all my fellow migraine sufferers commenting below, I hope you all have a prevention or management plan that works for you. I can empathize with each and every story, and I wish nothing but the best for you all because I know how strong you have to be and how much it sucks. I've seen migraine pop up as an answer a few times already, but I thought I'd throw my experience in the mix. I'm lucky enough to get an aura before mine start. which gives me about 30 minutes to take painkillers and find a dark room to hide in for the next day. The aura is incredibly unpleasant. Have you ever accidentally looked at the sun or a bright light and had that glowing after effect in your vision for a while? It's kind of like that, only more vivid. It takes up about 80% of my vision. Once it fades, the pain kicks in very quickly. This pain is like nothing else. It is pain that makes you vomit, which in turn makes the pain worse. One way to describe it to those who haven't experienced it: I've explained many times that my migraines feel like I'm taking an ice pick to both eye sockets every 2 seconds while someone tightens a vice around my temples, cranking it tighter every time they ice pick me. And then light and sound increases that pain fivefold. I've broken bones in my hands and feet and would rather deal with that deep, aching pain for weeks over a single migraine. On the bright side, my pain tolerance is absolutely through the roof in comparison to most people. Walked around on a fractured foot and ruptured tendon for 7 months and thought it was just a bad sprain that was refusing to go away until I spoke to a podiatrist, and I get bad headaches sometimes too. Okay. I'm sure you've had bad headaches, but have you been bedridden 5-7 days just writhing in pain and crying, waking up at 3 a.m. in excruciating pain for months on end? I'm not looking forward to my next migraine. I still haven't figured out what exactly triggers them. My mom, dad, and brother get them. It was particularly awful when I was 15-16 and have, thankfully, grown more infrequent as I've gotten older. I almost failed the year of school because I was out so much with migraines. And don't even get me started on the various migraine meds and their side effects. When I got my first migraine, I didn't know what it was and literally thought I was dying. I described to the docs that it felt like an ice climbing pick was being hammered through my eye socket and into my brain, and the pain radiated out to all the surrounding bones, incorporated my jaw, until they felt like they were going to explode from the inside out. I was also incredibly nauseous, but more like the feeling associated with motion sickness than the flu. I had little scraps on my scalp and around my eye, face from where I had been clutching my head in pain. When they gave me 4 drugs and the pain went away, hours after it had started, I teared up with relief. I've thought about it, and for me a horrid thought about surviving an apocalypse isn't where will I get water. It's when my migraine drugs run out. I'd probably rather die. Both the preventatives and the abortives. I ran over a ground hornet nest with a lawnmower when I was about 12. The parental units wouldn't let me in the house because I'd bring them with me. So, I just ran around while the entire nest stung me repeatedly until they were all raged out. The average ground wasp nest has over 500 wasps, and they all defend the nest. They each can sting repeatedly. If you didn't know, it takes a long time for angry wasps to finish raging. I'm not allergic, or I definitely would have died. As it was, I swelled up to at least twice my size for about 2 days. I was constipated and had to poop really bad. It finally came out after 2 days, and in the process I ripped my butthole. It would hurt for me to sit down, walk, and take a shit. It was so painful when I had to poop. I was so afraid to. Imagine someone stabbing you in the butt with a knife. It lasted almost 3 months. Edit, grammar, edit 2. I seen some people said they had to get surgery. OMG, same here, but they said if it didn't get better in 6 months, they were worried it could get infected and that would make things worse. I wish this on no one, and for people that have this issue on and off, I wish the anal fairy bless that butthole, because this shit is no joke. Also, first reward, thank you. My back surgeries, they had to do them while I was awake so they didn't burn the wrong nerves. It was extremely painful. It happened because I was in a hit-and-run accident. I managed to get a picture of the guy's car as he took off, license plate and all. No one took me seriously when I told them how much pain I was in. My car insurance company refused to pay for my treatment because they said there was no way I was as injured as I said I was. Even though I had multiple doctors saying otherwise. They based their decision solely on the damage or lack of damage to my SUV because a small car hit me. That was in April 2018. Here it is August 2021 and I've had 2 back surgeries, Physical therapy 3 different times, chiropractic, now I'm doing water therapy and am on high doses of pain pills and pain patches. I used to be a licensed insurance agent. You have a 6-year time limit to sue the other party's insurance for reoccurring medical expenses pertaining to the accident if you were ever able to find them. If you haven't ever located the person, I would suggest speaking to a lawyer about options pertaining to a higher payout regardless of whether emotional, mental or medical trauma is in question. Edit: 6-year time limit may have only pertained to the state I was working in. It is true that time limit may vary by state. My bad.